There's a meme going around the internet, maybe you've seen it, that says, if you want to know what you would have done during the civil rights movement, you're doing it now. I'm too young to remember Black people being harassed and beaten for sitting at a lunch counter, or the Freedom Riders risking their lives by riding interstate buses into the segregated South. But in the last few months, we have seen children ripped from their parents and imprisoned in cages. Some of their parents have been deported with apparently no thought as to how to reunite them with their kids. There's a referendum on our ballot in Massachusetts this November that would strip rights away from transgender people. There's mounting fear that Roe versus Wade will be repealed, overturned. In the last few months, we've seen attacks on the freedom of the press, widespread attempts at voter suppression, and actual Nazis running for Congress. If I want to know what I would have done during the civil rights movement, I'm doing it now. So what am I doing? Too often, the answer is nothing. I'm overwhelmed by the barrage of bad news. And many of you have told me that you feel the same way, paralyzed by what feel like assaults on liberty and justice and even hope. So much is broken. It's overwhelming. So much is broken, it's overwhelming. There's no denying that. But one of the dangers of overwhelm is that we become inured to what we see. It becomes the status quo. So police violence against people of color, business as usual. Islamophobia and rising anti-Semitism, business as usual. Discrimination against transgender and queer people, refugee children torn from their parents, xenophobic rhetoric emanating from the highest levels of government, business as usual. It's so easy to shrug and say, that's the new normal. And it's easy to turn away. Because who wants to look with clear eyes at a world so filled with injustice? Many of you have heard me quote the poet Jason Schinder of blessed memory, with whom I worked at Bennington when I was getting my MFA. He used to say, whatever gets in the way of the work is the work. So if the overwhelm of today's news cycle is getting in the way of the spiritual work we need to do, then that overwhelm becomes the doorway into the spiritual work. Because the real question is, what are we going to do about it? How does this season of the Jewish year invite us to work with this overwhelm? It's Rosh Hashanah, the day that our tradition names as Yom HaDin, the day of judgment. If I told you that our two big fall holidays map to judgment and to love, you might have guessed that love goes with the birthday of the world and judgment goes with the Day of Atonement. But it's the other way around. Our tradition connects Yom Kippur with Chesed, with overflowing love, and Rosh Hashanah with Gevurah, with strength and boundaries and judgment and discernment. Today is a day for discerning where we've gone astray. Many of us feel that the whole world seems to have gone astray. The first step toward fixing that truth is facing that truth. We need to not turn away. I want to pause here to say, of course we can turn away sometimes. Everyone needs to turn away sometimes. Many of you have come to me over the last year with increased anxiety and depression because of the horrendous injustices that we're seeing in the world around us. And I have often counseled taking Shabbos away from the news cycle. No one can carry the weight of the world all the time. And the heart and soul cannot be healthy if they are marinating in a constant bath of outrage and trauma, By all means, turn away when you need to. In fact, consider turning away before you need to, so that you can get the sustenance you need in order to turn back. Because turning back is the quintessential move of this time of year. The days of awe are all about teshuvah, repentance, return, turning ourselves around, reorienting ourselves in the right direction again. Turning back is what we're here for today. Turning to face what's broken and then doing something about it. The first step is opening our eyes and choosing to see. Choose to see hatred of immigrants and fear of difference. Choose to see assaults on voting rights. Choose to see white supremacy and racism. Choose to see injustice, both large and small. It really is tempting to turn away, but before we can fix what's broken, we have to see it clearly. You know, of course, we may not all agree on what exactly needs fixing or how we should fix it. One thing that doesn't help us here is the human tendency toward homophily. Birds of a feather flock together. Anytime I speak about homophily, I owe a debt of gratitude to my ex-husband Ethan, who wrote about it so beautifully in his book, Rewired. It's human nature to surround ourselves with people with whom we agree. Democrats hang out with Democrats, Republicans hang out with Republicans, and so on. I used to imagine that the answer was simply to expose ourselves more to other viewpoints. But I've come to believe that that's not enough. I mean, yes, encountering other viewpoints is important, but it won't fix this problem. Because this isn't just a problem of information flow. It's a problem of fundamental human disconnection, of which the information flow is a symptom. It's a spiritual problem. And the question it asks of us is exactly the question of this moment in the Jewish year. Am I doing the work I need to do? Where do I need to course correct? Where do I need to be more generous in how I see myself and others? And where do I need to draw a firmer line? We can disagree on which media source is most trustworthy, but we shouldn't accept rhetoric that holds that the free press is the enemy of the people. We can disagree on who to vote for, but we shouldn't accept systemic voter suppression. We can disagree about which rights we hold most dear, but we shouldn't accept the dismantling of human rights and dignity for anyone. Siddhartha Mitter writes that the first question we should ask any political aspirant is, how does human dignity shape your vision of society? I'm going to say that again. How does human dignity shape your vision of society? It's a question, he writes, that can admit many answers: liberal, conservative, progressive, etc. It's not a question of partisanship or tactics, he writes. It's a question of morality. Policies that diminish human dignity are wrong. This is a fundamental Jewish value, and it's a value that we need to center as we move into the new year. The new year demands that we envision a better world and then find the persistence and commitment to figure out how to get from here to there. The new year demands that we figure out how to build bridges with those with whom we disagree without endangering the most vulnerable among us. Migrant children need to be welcomed and cared for, not caged. Refugees need to be protected, not deported. Transgender and queer people need to be valued and uplifted, not harmed. People of color need to be valued and uplifted, not harmed. Jews and Muslims and Hindus and Sikhs need to be valued and uplifted, not harmed. The new year demands that we stand firm against unethical policies without demonizing those who enact those policies. Jewish tradition is clear that every human being is made in the image and the likeness of God, and every human being is animated by a soul that is fundamentally pure. That is true even of those with whom we most profoundly disagree. The Jewish tradition is also clear that we make choices, and those choices can obscure our pure souls with schmutz. Technical term. And when our choices pull us askew from what God and our tradition's highest values ask of us, we need to make teshuvah, we need to repent and return. Vision is our theme for the High Holidays this year at CEI. It's the first word printed on this year's bracelets. That theme calls us to ask, what do we need to see? And what are we reluctant to see? And what would it be like to see differently? Because if we can envision a better world, then we can build that better world. As the psalmist wrote, as we've been singing for the last month, Lulei emanti, lerod betov Adonai, Lulei emanti, beretz chaim. What if I wholly believed to see the goodness of God? What if I wholly believed in this land of life? What if I could really and truly believe that I would see God's goodness in this world? What would that feel like? The best way to cultivate that faith is to act. You want to see God's goodness in the world? Then do something to bring that goodness into being. We are loved by unending love, says Rabbi Rami Shapiro's poetic riff on the Ahavat Olam prayer. We are embraced by arms that find us even when we're hidden from ourselves. We are touched by fingers that soothe us even when we are too proud for soothing. And he also writes, ours are the arms, fingers, the voices. We are loved by an unending love, and the way we experience that is by expressing it to each other. It's up to us to see a better world and then make that vision real. In this sense, we're called to be prophets and then to build our vision into being. In Jewish tradition, a prophet is not someone who predicts the future. A prophet is someone who exhorts us to be and do better. We need to envision a better world than this, and then we need to set our hands to the task of building it. That's how we make teshuvah. Look, teshuvah is an evergreen high holiday theme. I talk about it every year because every year it's something we need, but this year I feel an unprecedented urgency. This year we need course correction and we need vision. It takes vision to imagine a world where the vulnerable are protected and the strong lift up the weak. It takes vision to imagine a world where the planet's abundance is shared. It takes vision to imagine a world where no one feels diminished by anyone else's mode of dress, or skin color, or gender identity, or way of worshiping. It takes vision to imagine a world where no one would seek to diminish another human being's rights or dignity. It takes vision to imagine a world where no one exercises entitlement to or dominion over another human being. A world without rape or sexual assault. A world without white supremacy. The world Judy Chicago wrote of in her poem that we often sing as part of our Aleinu, and then all will be so very rich and free, and everywhere will be called Eden once again. We have to imagine that world, and then we have to build it. I know that may feel implausible. I know that so many of us feel hopeless and precarious right now. I know that because y'all have told me so. I know that because I feel it too. And I want to honor that, even as I call us to draw strength from how far we have come. Once upon a time, chattel slavery was the law of the land. Once upon a time, it was legal to own another human being as a piece of property. That was legal. That was following the law. And it changed, not because the people who owned the slaves decided it would be okay to give that up. It changed because of hard work and activism and legislation and struggle. And yes, also a bloody civil war, the likes of which I hope our nation never sees again. But these times also demand of us hard work and activism and legislation and struggle, so that our transgender loved ones can be safe. By the way, on your way out, you'll find information about the Yes on 3 campaign that will preserve the rights that trans folks already have in Massachusetts. That's what these times demand of us, so that women can continue to feel safe in our own bodies, so that the rights of marriage and adoption granted to people of all sexual orientations remain intact, so that the laws that protect our nation's fragile environment are not gutted, so that white supremacists will understand that, in the words of our first president, George Washington, to bigotry we will give no sanction. The hatred of any person is tantamount to hatred of all people, because we are all made in the image of God. Teshuvah calls us to turn toward God, to turn toward our highest selves. But it's not enough just to turn in the right direction. We have to do something about it. What's your vision for America in the year to come? And what are we going to do to help bring that vision into being? Will we register new voters and fight voter suppression? Will we work toward affordable health care or to protect the environment? Will we take a stand against prejudice and unethical behavior? Will we find a candidate who inspires us and support them with our phone calls or our wallet? Will we urge our public servants to put human dignity front and center in every choice they make about how to govern? Teshuvah calls us to resist apathy and overwhelm and that internal voice that says, I can't actually fix anything, so I might as well not try. Teshuvah calls us to take action, to preserve and uphold human dignity and human rights, to love the stranger, for we were strangers in the land of Egypt, to do what we can to build a more just and righteous world. If we want to know what we would have done during the civil rights movement, we have the opportunity to do it now. That's the antidote to relentless bad news and overwhelm. That's how we make Teshuvah. That's the turn to which this season calls us. Be brave enough to envision a world better than the one we know now. And then set your hands to bringing that vision to life. That's the work. And this year it feels more critical than ever. As our sages remind us, it's not incumbent on us to finish the task, but neither are we free to refrain from beginning. Shalom.